obsidian. Prepare yourself for the man of black.
Yeah, I know what this is, so
check it out.
So that Bounty, Charmin, Puffs, Gain, Tide, Bounce, Always, Tampax, Gillette, The Art of Shaving, Aussie, Head & Shoulders, Old Spice, Native, Pantene, Cascade, Dawn, Febreze, Magic Eraser, Swiffer, Crest, Oral-B, Pepto-Bismol, Vicks, Prilosec, Olay, and Secret are all owned by one company called Procter & Gamble.
Voy a decirte algo que tú ya sabes. El mundo no es todo alegría y color. Es un lugar terrible y por muy duro que seas, es capaz de arrodillarte a golpes y tenerte sometido permanentemente si no se lo impides. Ni tú, ni yo, ni nadie golpea más fuerte que la vida. Pero no importa lo fuerte que golpeas, sino lo fuerte que pueden golpearte. Y lo aguantas mientras avanzas. Hay que soportar sin dejar de avanzar. Así es como se gana, como se gana, como se gana.
Levels of Wall Street. Rajat Gupta is a former board member of Goldman Sachs and Procter & Gamble. He left court Wednesday free on $10 million bail after pleading not guilty to federal charges of insider trading. Gupta had surrendered to the FBI earlier in the day. The 61-year-old is accused of passing inside information along to a friend, a billionaire hedge fund founder. Rajaratnam was sentenced this month to 11 years in prison, the biggest insider trading case in history.
This was a long-term relationship. Mr. Gupta and Mr. Rajaratnam, they go back a long ways. They were friends. They actually formed a business together to invest in Salon. So they have a close relationship.
Gupta is facing 6 charges, 1 count of conspiracy to commit securities fraud, and 5 counts of securities fraud. They carry a potential penalty of 105 years in prison. His lawyer calls the charges, quote, totally baseless. Issuance of Gupta's bail required he remain in the continental United States. His trial date is set for April 9th. Ross Sixth, The Associated Press.
Procter & Gamble, which owns brands like Pampers, Mr. Clean, and Tide, announced it will be laying off roughly 6% of its workforce. With 108,000 employees, that comes out to about 7,000 job cuts. The reason behind the cuts is one we've heard a lot in recent months: tariffs. While the majority of what the company sells is produced in the U.S., some materials and finished products are imported from China. Based on the current tariff rates, P&G says it's preparing to take a before-tax hit of $600 million in its 2026 fiscal year. The company has already announced there would be price increases on some products. Of the announcement, P&G executives said this is not a new approach, rather an intentional acceleration of the current strategy to win in the increasingly challenging environment in which we compete. According to Reuters, the trade war has already cost U.S. companies more than $34 billion in lost sales and increased cost. That'll do it for your daily briefing. From New York City, I'm Kelsey Barbario with The Street.
9 arrests and charges of burglary and vandalism after these protesters break into Procter & Gamble headquarters, placing a zip line and dropping 2 huge posters along the building.
We have team coverage of this incident and how it happened. So let's start with 9 on your side reporter Jay Warren. Jay?
Well, Greenpeace is in Cincinnati to protest what they say is Procter & Gamble's use of the product palm oil. Palm oil is harvested in Indonesia, and Greenpeace says that the rainforests there are being deforested, causing a grave threat to endangered species. Daring, dangerous, and highly illegal, these activists rappelled down the outside of Procter & Gamble's world headquarters. The message, stop putting tiger survival on the line. Greenpeace asserts that the palm oil in Head & Shoulders and other products wipes out dandruff and rainforest.
85% of palm oil today is grown in Indonesia, and this palm oil production has been linked to the destruction of the habitat for the critically endangered Sumatran tiger and orangutan.
With someone dressed as a tiger on a zip line between the 2 towers, these activists gained quite a lot of attention, which of course was their primary purpose. The protest also gained quite a bit of attention from the Cincinnati Police Department. After these activists started pulling up the signs and coming up, they were immediately arrested.
Greenpeace has been talking to Procter & Gamble for several years, trying to convince them to buy a different kind of palm oil, the stuff that's not linked to rainforest destruction, but they're not listening. And we think that it's an urgent time. We should be able to wash away dandruff without wiping out tigers.
Now, when I ask questions about how these individuals actually pulled that off, if they knew, they were not talking. For more on other parts of this story, we go to my colleague Tom McKee, who's around the corner. Tom?
Well, Jay, all 9 of those suspects were brought here to Cincinnati Police Headquarters on Ezra Charles Drive in the West End. As we've said, the charges are burglary and vandalism. The question that remains unanswered tonight, and one that everybody wants to know, is how did they do it? Well, it was just about 1 hour ago that Cincinnati police officers were seen loading what appeared to be technical climbing gear into the back of a pickup truck to be carted away from the loading dock at P&G on Sentinel Street. Ropes, helmets, and backpacks were clearly visible. A short time later, another door opened, and a van with all 9 of those suspects inside backed away and headed over here to District 1.
They hung their banners, they were outside, they were trying to keep us from getting to them, so I'm not sure. Some things were destroyed in the process. Some windows and some locks, thus far is what I know, Tom.
Now, the burglary charge is for getting into the building without authorization. The vandalism charge, as you heard Sergeant Jillian Johnson of the Cincinnati Police Department say, was for destroying that property. Nobody I talked with today can remember any kind of activism like this with banners being hung from buildings. I've seen parachutists jump over off the top of the Carew Tower, but nothing quite like this. Tom McKee, 9 on your side, live in the West End.
That's amazing. Thanks, Tom. P&G issued this statement about the protest. It says, we agree that deforestation is a significant issue, which is why we are committed to the sustainable sourcing of palm oil. We have already pledged to reach 100% sustainable sourcing of palm oil by 2015, and we will continue to drive to that goal with urgency. As soon as this happened, the stunt lit up Twitter. These pictures were taken by the protesters with Greenpeace. In the meantime, Greenpeace has dedicated its entire website to talking about P&G. We'll have continuing coverage on this incident throughout the newscast as well as on WCPO.com. And coming up,
Commandos in some Hollywood movie, activists rappelled down the side of the P&G towers. They were trying to make a point about protecting the environment, but they definitely made one about P&G's security. Good evening, everyone. If the idea was to get the public's attention, well, it certainly worked.
But it remains to be seen if the larger message the protesters are sending is resonating here. But there are a lot of questions tonight about the security breach that let it happen in the first place. Local 12's Paula Toti has been covering this stunt all day. She's live in Mount Adams with how police think it unfolded. Paula.
Well, Rob, police say that 9 people are in jail tonight for what happened behind me, and they came from all over the country, from New York to California. Police say before they made it up to the top and out the windows, they started at the bottom, likely walking right in the front door. Rappelling 17-story twin towers and unfurling gigantic protest banners made for a great photo op for people walking by Procter & Gamble. This Greenpeace effort was so coordinated, the group had a helicopter shoot this video. It caught P&G and police off guard.
Well, sure, it's a concern for ours, but I'm sure it's really a concern for Procter & Gamble. I mean, there's a lot of things, that's like Fort Knox.
And that's still the confusion. What kind of security breach allows for a woman dressed as a tiger to hang from wires between the towers? Police think 9 people in street clothes got past security carrying a lot of stuff.
They had luggage with a lot of equipment in it, and rappelling gear and banners. So, I don't know at this point whether they got in a day before, because one of the offices was that they came out of was vacant.
During the quick hour-long protest, police were locked out of the balcony where it was happening. The group had braces that kept doors closed and broke other locks to get outside.
So we went up to the 12th floor, and I made phone contact with one of the protesters, a very polite individual. Asked him how long he was going to be out there. He said they're going to be wrapping up shortly.
As for what's behind this,
Greenpeace activists are here today to expose that Procter & Gamble is using palm oil linked to rainforest destruction in its products like Head & Shoulders.
The protesters surrendered peacefully, were questioned for hours by police, and hauled off to jail. As for P&G, a company spokesperson told me that they are working with police to figure out what happened with security. And I can tell you that investigators tell me they're taking a close look at the whole helicopter situation. Was that pilot hired innocently to take pictures or in on committing a crime? A lot of unanswered questions. And as for the whole rainforest issue, P&G issued me the statement saying that the deforestation is a significant issue and the company is absolutely in compliance and committed to sustainable sourcing of palm oil, which was at the heart of all this in the first place. But again, Rob, as you mentioned, not really what people are talking about so much tonight. Reporting live from Mount Adams, Paula Toti, Local 12 News.
I can't imagine making your way into P&G towers like that, like they theoretically did. Did anybody talk about there was some help from the inside?
Well, there are certainly rumors going around, and police and investigators have definitely told us we are looking at who might be complicit in this for sure. So no one is saying that they are looking at no, they're not going to leave a stone unturned on this.
I bet you're right about that. Paula Toti, thanks very much. The 9 face charges of criminal trespassing, inducing panic, burglary, and vandalism.
The organic sales growth in this quarter just ended?
It was 1%.
1%. So for the year, you were hoping, in past years, you've been as high as 3 to 5 at different times, right? We have it all the time. I remember that, yeah.
Good memory. The markets that we're competing in, if you look at the U.S., for example, the last couple months has slowed from what used to be about, more recently, about 4% growth down to 1%. The same kind of dynamic in Europe. So that reflects the consumer uncertainty that I was talking about, and it's reflected obviously in our results. Still growth, but a little bit lower, and reflected in our outlook as well.
Last time you were on, China was getting better, and it had been a problem spot, and now actually, I think your CFO last time said, I want to be clear, I don't think China's out of the woods. Little did we know. So how important is China, and what's the outlook there?
China's our second largest market in both sales and profits, so it's very important. Again, quarter to quarter, we saw a sequential improvement, albeit modest. So last quarter, we were down by 3% on the top line. This quarter, we're down by 2%. But some important points of growth within that. Our baby diaper business, for instance, is growing at double digits in a market that's declining due to birth rates. SK2, which has been a challenge for us, grew double digits in the quarter in China as well. So things are coming around, just as Andre indicated, but it's going to take a while, and the path forward will be bumpy.
I think one of your competitors, it's much smaller, obviously, but Kimberly Clark talking about tit-for-tat tariffs, which could drive up costs of a lot of different things. They were mentioning Kleenex in this case, but what about that?
Well, we're still sorting through, as is the administration, exactly what the tariff rates are going to be, and then what the potential retaliatory tariff rates will be. For us, we manufacture most of our products proximate to consumption, so the issue isn't profound, but it will cause a challenge, and we're working to understand what the magnitude of that challenge will be and how we'll offset that. It's because we produce close to where our products are consumed. We've been investing a lot of capital in manufacturing in the U.S., which puts us in a decent position. If you go all the way back to 2017, when the Tax Reform Act was passed and gave us lower rates, which increased the attractiveness of investment in the U.S., we've spent $10 billion in capital, manufacturing capital. We've employed an additional 6,000 people. Average wage at the starting level has increased by 30%. And importantly, we pay more taxes today to the U.S. than we did in 2017, about $2.2 billion the last couple of years versus $1.6 billion pre-reform. So when we can get policies that make American companies competitive, pretty amazing things happen. During that period of time, on a global basis, the company increased sales by $17 billion, 85th percentile in the S&P 500. We increased profit by $5 billion, 93rd percentile in the S&P 500. We grew market cap by $200 billion, which is more than our competitors, most of whom are foreign domiciled, have created over their entire 1 and 2 century histories as a company. So we need to continue to work to ensure we have policies that allow American companies to be competitive. That's both tariffs and taxes. And I think we're headed, we'll get to the right place.
When the dollar's strong, we don't, you're like, yeah, well, the dollar's strong. When it's weak, it doesn't really help that much either. Does it or does it? Just like a...
The dollar is meaningful. And as was discussed in your last discussion about IBM, it is a help recently, and we'll see where that settles out. We're just beginning our forecasting process for our next fiscal year, which begins in July. There are lots of moving parts, but we'll sort through that again with a priority being on maintained investment in innovation and demand creation, which puts us in the best spot in the near term and in the long term as economies recover and consumer confidence is rebuilt.
Hey, John, how do you handle the messaging coming out of the White House when it comes to tariffs these days? I mean, you said you're just now getting ready and getting these plans set for next year. How do you plan? How do you put things into play for that?
Well, the administration has been and the Hill have both been very open to dialogue, to two-way dialogue, which gives us a better opportunity to understand where things are headed. So we're spending a fair amount of time on that, and we're going through all of the options that we have to make this as painless for consumers as possible. There will likely be pricing. Tariffs are inherently inflationary, but we're also looking at sourcing options and even the where-to-play choices within our portfolio. So all of that's on the table. Our job isn't to design policy. Our job is to optimize the business outcome against the backdrop of that policy. So a lot of it's just working, as you know, day by day to understand what the landscape looks like today.
You just said that there likely will be price increases that consumers will face. How high do you think that will be, and when will we start to see that on store shelves?
I don't know. It's obviously different for different products, and I'm not going to venture into other industries. But in our case, any pricing that needs to occur will occur next fiscal year.
1980s and early 1990s, a wave of fear swept across the U.S. and beyond, as people became convinced that secret satanic cults were everywhere, kidnapping children, performing dark rituals, and even controlling society from the shadows. Even now in 2024, with access to a world of information at our fingertips, these rumors and beliefs aren't slowing down. Hell, we even give politicians a platform to spread that fear without evidence, and there's hardly any pushback. Ah, God, here we go. Sorry. Not gonna make it political. So, that's an example. But today, I'm gonna cover a bizarre satanic panic rumor that I remember hearing in the 90s, right as the internet was becoming more accessible to households in the US. And for this particular rumor, we actually have to go back to the 80s first. In 1982, leaflets began popping up all over the United States addressed to all Christians, declaring war on the 145-year-old company Procter & Gamble. P&G is an American multinational consumer goods corporation that specializes in a wide range of personal health and hygiene products. You know, like Tide and Crest. According to the leaflets, a representative from Procter & Gamble had made an appearance on various talk shows, such as The Merv Griffin Show or The Phil Donahue Show, and announced their support for the Church of Satan. Okay?
We, the makers of Pampers that provide superior comfort to babies on the go, do hereby offer up this sacrifice of the unworthy paper towels of our competitors to our Dark Lord, for another successful quarterly profit of 13%.
Burn them! Burn them! Burn!
Whoa. It's getting all hot in here. Ooh. Oh my God, I am sweating so much.
That they have fun company picnics. Wouldn't you know it? That their deal with the devil didn't actually start in the 80s? No, friend. This blasphemous relationship has actually been in our face for nearly 50 years. I mean, you just have to look at their logo. Do you see it? Yeah, sure, P&G claims that that's just the man in the moon, and that those 13 stars are just representations of the 13 American colonies. Okay. But if you read the Bible, you'd know that Revelations chapter 12, verse 1 states,
"And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars.
And since the P&G logo has 13 stars, that means it's a mockery of the heavenly symbol. Therefore, it's satanic. Oh, also there's devil horns and an inverted 666 in the guy's beard. So explain that. Heathens. By June and July of 1982, the company had received over 15,000 phone calls and letters from people threatening to boycott the company or inquire about their support of Satan. Procter & Gamble went so far as to set up a separate toll-free number to handle all the calls they were receiving, as well as hire private investigative agencies to track down where these rumors started and hold those using their public platforms to spread these lies accountable. Even the Attorney General of South Dakota had issued a press release to the state media reminding them that no executives had sold their soul to Satan. I mean, what the f***? When religious leaders like the Reverend Billy Graham teamed up with P&G to help quash the rumors and lawsuits began rolling out to individuals, the rumors became less frequent. That is until the 90s. And we really like to repeat our past mistakes, don't we? We do. In 1993, public use of the internet had exploded, leading to the development of Mosaic web browser and discussion forums. Naturally, with the world becoming more connected, the cycle of misinformation began spreading again. The rumor mostly stayed the same, but had this sort of added flair to it that sounded like one of those chain emails that you got when the internet first started coming about. Yeah, how many people fell for those? Probably a lot. Still do, too. Still do. So, the claim stated, "Please make a difference. The president of Procter & Gamble appeared on the Phil Donahue Show on March 1st, 1994. He announced that due to the openness of our society, he was coming out of the closet about his association with the Church of Satan." He stated that a large portion of his profits from Procter & Gamble products goes to support this satanic church. When asked by Donahue if stating this on TV would hurt his business, he replied, "There are not enough Christians in the United States to make a difference." Now, but hold on. Let me ask you something. If you were offered $1 million, if you could correctly name the president of a company like, let's say, Dillard's or, Payless Shoe Source. I don't like the way that name rolls off the tongue, by the way. But do you think that you could do it? Probably not, right? In the 90s, there were probably, like 2 corporate heads that were considered household names? I mean, you got Steve Jobs and Dave Thomas. Miss you, Dave. Oh, also, Wendy's, bring back this aesthetic, please. We live in a drab, ugly society. Having a covered patio with the rain dripping down and having a bright yellow box of French fries just would do wonders for my soul. Leave a comment below if you agree that Wendy's should bring back that aesthetic. What purpose would it serve for the president of Procter & Gamble to appear on a daytime talk show? I mean, what's the point? Most CEOs aren't even really that entertaining or appealing outside of maybe, a congressional testimony on C-SPAN, which is boring.
Senator, I'm not aware of that.
I don't know what psychotic means, really. They can tell
The
us we're
exception to the rule, of course, being Bill Gates showing off his sweet vertical jump.
Is it true that you can leap over a chair from a standing position? That are more
It depends on the size of the chair. I'll cheat a little bit.
Yes!
Imagine that guy's your boss.
Yes!
This rumor continued even further into the 90s with the CEO supposedly appearing on the Sally Jessy Raphael Donatello Ninja Turtle show in 1998. All of these claims of when this unnamed CEO appearing on various shows were quickly refuted, as it has been in years past. But I think that Sally Jessy April O'Neil Splinter said it best when she said, "If we had this man on our show and he had said what it is alleged he had said, we would have scored a broadcasting scoop and would have trumpeted it to all the newspapers. It would have been to the show's advantage. But there was no scoop. There were no headlines. And Sally is right, it would have been advantageous for them if this happened on her show. But it didn't. So how exactly did this rumor persist from the 80s into the 90s? Well, you heard of Amway, right? The multi-level marketing company, been around since 1959? Yeah, they're involved. Among many of the different products Amway sells, you will find cleaning products, personal care, and beauty products. Very similar to products under the Procter & Gamble umbrella. Now, during the 80s, Amway had experienced its first slump in sales, as well as legal challenges. In fact, the Canadian government charged Amway with not paying millions of dollars in customs duties on goods imported from the United States. In 1983, after pleading guilty in the criminal case, Amway paid a $25 million fine in an out-of-court settlement. A separate civil case was continued by the Canadian government to collect duties it should have been paid all the way back to the 1970s. Amway, again, settled out of court, this time in 1989 for $45 million. 40% of the amount the Canadian government originally tried to collect. So here we have money problems and legal pressure mounting against Amway. As with a lot of multi-level marketing organizations, the church becomes a hotbed for new recruits, all with the goal of making the company and themselves more money and growing their business. Have you ever dealt with somebody that's involved in an MLM? Sure, you could order a case of laundry soap from them, likely at a higher price than you would find at the grocery store, but you'd be helping out a friend from church, and you'd be helping their business grow. Of course, it's much easier buying what you need from a grocery store, instead of relying on your friend to lug all this shit over in their Geo Metro. With Procter & Gamble being the largest distributor with billions of dollars in sales from their products and legal and financial troubles mounting against Amway, This was a perfect opportunity for Amway's devotees to spread false information against P&G. After all, the company had filed and settled 14 libel lawsuits against individuals it believes to have spread the rumor, including an Atlanta television weatherman, and in March of 1991, P&G won a $75,000 judgment against James and Linda K. Newton, two Amway distributors in Parsons, Kansas. The ruling prohibited the couple from spreading false statements associating the company with Satanism. Even as late as 2007, Procter & Gamble won $19.25 million lawsuit against 4 former Amway distributors that was filed in 1995. It may have taken years for individuals that were responsible for spreading the misinformation to have any sort of consequences for their actions, and I'm sure that there are plenty of other people out there that have escaped unscathed. What's worrisome about looking back at this instance of satanic panic is seeing the potential for even more outlandish claims being made against people or companies in the present and in the future. I mean, we're already facing those challenges and we are comically unprepared for them. There is a saying that's ironically falsely contributed to Mark Twain that states, "A lie can travel halfway around the world while the truth is still putting on its shoes." It's not that hard to get caught up in misinformation, especially in the present day. When you're bombarded by a fire hose of falsehoods covering a variety of topics, it becomes a challenge to sift through the shit to find the truth. And in the case of Procter & Gamble, a false claim that started over 40 years ago, we witnessed a growing panic that started likely in the church. For many Christians, once a boycott of a brand starts, no matter how bizarre and outlandish, it spreads quickly. And if it's spoken from the pulpit, well, it becomes the word of God. And it becomes their duty to fight against evil. Now look, I'm not normally in the business of defending mega corporations, and there have been many who have practiced some shady shit over the years. But this rumor about Procter & Gamble and their ties to the Church of Satan are just simply not true. But I wonder how many people still believe that to this day. There's a lot more to this bizarre history of Procter & Gamble and the Church of Satan that I didn't cover in this video. But if you'd like to read a little bit more about it, there's a great article that I've linked in the description to this video from Atlas Obscura. I highly recommend reading it. There's some really funny and bizarre shit in that article. So please go check it out. That's going to do it for this episode of I Miss the 90s. If you know of any other weird and bizarre 90s rumors, please let me know in the comments below. I have a few that I would like to cover in the future, and I'd love to hear your input as well. So that's going to do it for this episode of I Miss the 90s. I'm your host, Mike O'Connor. Later. Okay.
I am Mr. Obsidian. Prepare yourself for the Man of Black.